No worries. Hello guys, and welcome to Mastering Your Communication and Elevating Treatment Acceptance. This is a topic and a subject matter that I'm massively passionate about. And it's the fact that I believe that every healthcare professional is in the business of sales, should be in the business of sales, and should feel incredibly comfortable about it. So the purpose of today is for me to share with you what I would call my top tips when it comes to our patient communication, our consultations, and the process by which we can elevate treatment acceptance. I spend a lot of time in clinic helping clinicians and TCOs to just speak to patients with a little bit more emotional intelligence, understand what it is they need and want, and then presenting back plans that are super easy to understand. So I'm going to get stuck into the main presentation. Now, during the presentation, do feel free to open the chat window, ask whatever questions you want. There might be moments during the presentation where you think, oh, I'd love to ask Prav this, or, you might forget later. Pop them in the Q&A or the chat section. I won't be able to see that while I'm presenting, but at the end, we're going to have some time, and I'll endeavor to answer as many questions as I can at the end. You may have specific scenarios or situations that are more specific to you. Feel free to ask those questions, and I will come back to those right at the end. So now I will just proceed to share my screen. Just a moment. And then hopefully share my presentation. Excellent. Okay, so mastering communication and elevating treatment acceptance is what today is all about. But what it's really all about is this conversation that we all feel, at least as healthcare professionals, really uncomfortable having. But what is sales? If I was to ask you all to close your eyes and imagine a photograph, a picture, some kind of narrative that paints a picture of what sales means to you, what would that be? Would it be a picture that's positive or negative? Would it be a male or a female? Would it be someone trying to push something onto you? Or would it be somebody who's trying to sell something to you or help you even? When I go around an audience usually and ask the question, I ask them to close their eyes and I say, well, what is sales and what does it mean to you? And what is the picture that you see in your mind? Often the connotation is negative, and it tends to revolve around somebody trying to sell you or convince you to buy something that you may not necessarily need. And what I want to do during the initial parts of this conversation is to perhaps share with you some ideas of what I feel sales is and how you should all be embracing the concept of sales. When it comes to sales, I think the most important part of the sales process, or at least what my definition revolves around, must take into account emotional intelligence. Connecting, understanding, relating, and expressing with emotion. Now, there's two amazing resources I'm shared on the screen here. We've got Dan Goleman's book on emotional intelligence and Malcolm Gladwell's book, Talking to Strangers. Two excellent resources about emotional intelligence. Now, for some people, when I talk about emotional intelligence, sometimes it's like, is it that fluffy stuff, Prav? The stuff that I don't really understand or can't relate to? What is emotional intelligence? In my mind, when I think about dentistry, emotional intelligence is about meeting your patients where they are, really understanding them. And instead of approaching the situation as a clinician, as a dental professional, approaching it as a human being, heart first, title second. To give you a little bit more insight into emotional intelligence and how it can express itself in your clinic, I'm going to share a story about emotional intelligence and how it was expressed in my own clinic by Kerry, my TCO. So there's a picture of Kerry, and I believe that she's the world's best TCO. And we had a lady who used to drive past our practice every day. And just to give you a little bit of background, I co-own a couple of practices in the Birmingham area, and Kerry's our TCO. And there was a patient, Brendan. She used to drive past our practice literally every day. It now transpires for about 7 years, and she'd always used to just sort of look past longingly into the clinic because she'd avoided the dentist in over 30 years. And she had a problem, but she couldn't pluck up the courage to actually pick up the phone. But on one particular occasion, she decided to pick up the phone, and Kerry answered, "Good morning, you through to Changing Faces. What can I do to help you today?" And Brenda said, "Well, I don't even know why I'm calling, because I'm so terrified I don't even think I could step through the door." "Oh, well, that's quite all right, Brenda. You see, we treat nervous patients every single day, no matter how bad you think it is. We've seen much worse. Why don't you pop into the clinic and meet me? You don't need to meet the dentist. You don't need to go into the surgery, and we'll just have a chat." "Oh, no, I don't think I could step foot in your practice. I'm too scared and terrified of doing that." "Okay, Brenda, that's fine. Do you know where we are?" "Yeah, I drive past every day, have been doing for the last 7 years. Only live down the road." "Oh, so you drive past every day, do you?" "Yes, I do." "Do you think the next time you're driving past, you could pluck up the courage to stop your car outside our clinic?" "Yeah, I think I could do that." "Do you think the next time you're driving past, you could pluck up the courage not only to stop your car, but drive it to the car park around the back of the practice?" "Yeah, I think I could do that." Brilliant, Brenda. Kerry met this patient for a consultation in our car park. After seeking permission, she got into the passenger seat and proceeded to talk to her about her dental issues, how she'd avoided the dentist over such a long time, and her fears, and understanding who she was. Several consultations later, in our car park, slowly moving and migrating to our waiting area, but only after hours, Brenda ended up having a full set of upper and lower implanted teeth fitted. It took about 6 months to get her over the line, but it was only through Kerry's emotional intelligence that she was able to, shall we say, sell to that patient, because that's ultimately what we did. But she did it in a way by meeting that patient where she was, both emotionally and physically. And that, I believe, is an amazing story about emotional intelligence. And you know, there's nothing in our operations manual or our systems and our processes that says if a patient is too scared to walk into the practice, meet them in the car park. But Kerry took that upon herself to do that because that's what she felt was the best thing for that patient. And we didn't know about this until much, much later. But what else is sales? You see, sales is also about knowing what's on the menu. So many practices that I walk into where the entire team doesn't know clinically what each clinician does. The entire team doesn't know the treatments on the menu. The entire team doesn't know who they can refer to for perio. And if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you possibly sell what's on the menu? But sales, if I had to wrap it up in a definition, and before I tell you what I feel my definition of sales is, I'd like you to close your eyes one more time. And I'd like you to think about what your definition of sales is. If you had to now articulate your definition of sales and you had to say, sales is, and then whatever that first sentence is that comes to your mind, I want you to either say it out aloud or just articulate it in your own mind. Sales is, and then just complete that sentence. You see, for me, sales is all about earning the right to make a recommendation by building trust. And that's all you're doing. When you're selling to patients, first and foremost, what you're doing, you're building trust. And attached to that trust is you earning the trust to make a recommendation. And that might be a treatment plan or several different treatment plans. And naturally attached to that treatment plan is an investment. So if we can all sit comfortably with my definition that sales is earning the right to make a recommendation by building trust, I don't think there's any clinician out there or dental health professional who would sit there and say, well, my job is not to make trust or build trust. And so sales is all about building trust. And that is what I'd like you to sit comfortably with when you're thinking about being in a sales role. All you're doing is building trust, making a recommendation, and then presenting the financial investment involved. But where does this all start? Well, for a lot of what I would consider to be new patients that come through the practice, and when we look at the patient journey, you've got your new patients, you've got your existing patients, those you've been speaking to for years and doing their 6 monthly checkups. Well, those patients you've already built a lot of long-standing trust with, so it should be very easy to sell them the treatment that's right for them. But what about these patients that make an inquiry, email in and send you something like this? Hi, my front teeth overlap. I've got gaps in my lower teeth and I'm terrified of the dentist. I haven't seen one in over 10 years. How much is teeth straightening? I use this question when I'm consulting with clients because the answer to this question tells me so much about that practice and their systems and processes. What happens next, Prav? Well, we'll call them. Will you? When will you call them? What time? Will you call them from a mobile or a landline? Will you call them straight away? Will you send them an email? If you've got their mobile number, will you send them a text or a WhatsApp? What will be the nature of the message you send them? Will you actually tell them how much teeth straightening is? Or will you focus on this patient's fears and understand that that first question is probably a decoy? And you see, when I ask practices what happens next, I can be sat there waiting for a long time to get to the answer. And in the majority of practices that want to elevate treatment acceptance, it starts at the beginning here. Because if we can't get those patients through the door who've inquired or have a meaningful conversation with them or connect with them, well, what are your chances of converting consultations? But who are your inquiries? What about the non-responders? You know, those who you email, you text, you WhatsApp, and you email again, and you call and you call and you call, and they don't respond. You know, those non-responders are not always time wasters. We just need to give them some more time. And to help you with this concept, I want to bring you to the 5 stages of awareness that was originally coined by Eugene Schwartz in 1966. And he identified that whatever problem you've got, whatever you want to buy, you go through 5 stages of awareness, no matter what your problem is. Let's take, for example, a patient with crooked teeth, okay? Now, I know when I'm conversing with parents at school and I meet them for the first time and somebody's got really bad crowding and crooked teeth, it is the only thing I see. Being in the business of dentistry, I fixate on people's teeth and how they, you know, in my own mind, I'm almost whispering to myself that that patient needs orthodontic treatment or that parent needs orthodontic treatment. They need to get the teeth straightened. But there's thousands, millions of patients out there, people out there who are completely unaware that the state of their crooked teeth is a problem. It doesn't bother them. They don't even give it a second thought. So in the 5 stages of awareness, the first stage is being completely unaware that you've got a problem. So why should you do something about it? Then they move to the second stage, which is to become aware of a problem. Then they become aware of a solution. They may start doing some research and looking for dentists and clinics, and then they become aware of the product. There's a solution out there. There's some aligners that I can use to straighten my teeth, or braces, or whatever their preferred option is. They'll do some deep research. And then stage 5, the most aware, are those patients who are maybe a Google review, a recommendation, or a conversation away from saying yes. But going from stage 1 to stage 5 does not happen overnight. It could take weeks, months, or even years. And to help you with this, I'd like you to close your eyes one last time during this presentation. And I'd like you to think of the last really, really expensive thing that you bought. Something that was so expensive that you had to borrow money to buy it. And I want you to think about the moment when you first thought to yourself, I would really like that house, car, piece of dental equipment, that amazing holiday, luxury clothing, bag, watch, whatever that was. I want you to think about the moment you first started desiring it and how much time actually passed between you first saying, I would like that, to the day you bought it. You see, our patients are in exactly the same position. You see, they see our dentistry as a really expensive purchase that often they need to borrow money to buy, which is why finance companies exist. And if you've thought of that number of how long it took you, if I was speaking to you all in the audience, some of you would say, well, I made the decision straight away, within a minute, within a day, within an hour. Some of you will say it took me a few weeks, a few months. And some of you will say 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And some of you will say, I've not bought it yet. And it's the same process for our patient inquiry journey. And the reason I took you through that exercise is I want you to step into your patient's shoes. And I want you to think of the buying journey, or that decision-making journey, as 3 lanes of the motorway. And in the fast lane, you've got the fast lane buyer who's going to buy today. And in the middle lane, you've got the middle lane buyer who's going to buy at some point between now and the next 3 months. And in the slow lane, we've got the slow lane buyer who's going to make a buying decision over the next 1.5 years. And when we looked at all the data within our CRM system, over 1.8 million inquiries over a 4-year period, approximately 3% were fast lane buyers, 15% were middle lane buyers, and a massive 50% were making that buying decision over an 18-month period. And for those of you that are doing the maths, a massive 32% bought 18 plus months later. And so when that patient comes into you now and they don't say yes on the day, and they don't come back to you within 30 days, and you think to yourself, well, maybe that was a time waster. I want you to remember that patient who popped up out of the woodwork 2 years later and said, let's go ahead. I'd like to proceed with treatment. Those were the people who were perhaps coasting along in the slow lane, transition to the middle lane, and on the day they popped into your clinic and said yes to that treatment plan that's 2 years old, had now appeared in the fast lane. And circumstances change. They may be physical, they may be financial, they may be situations where things become a little bit more urgent, a promotion at work, somebody getting married, any kind of situation really that sparks off an event. And so when it comes to managing dental practice inquiries and managing that sales process, I'm going to take you through the process that we go through. So you can have some marketing activity going on. And initially, you get a new inquiry. And as that inquiry comes through, we send that patient a welcome email and a welcome SMS. And over the next 18 months, we follow up with that patient with email and SMS reminders, before and afters, reviews, Google reviews and video reviews, testimonials. We ask them to send us a selfie of their smile. And at the end, if they don't respond, we send them what's called a breakup email to elicit an emotional response. What does that initial welcome SMS look like? Well, it's really simple. And all we try and do is ask a question. Something like this. Hi, it's Sarah from Harley Private Dental. Thank you for getting in touch. Is there a convenient time to call you? Now look at this. The text went out at 11:30 a.m. and the patient responded a minute later. The amount of time it takes you to respond to an inquiry, the longer it takes you to respond to an inquiry, the less likely you are to ever even communicate with that patient. So if you connect with them straight away, no matter what time of the day it is, even if it's a Sunday evening at 9:35, we send automated texts to patients. Hi, it's Sarah. Thanks for your inquiry. I'm back in the practice on Monday at 9. Is there a convenient time to call you? 9:35 on a Sunday evening, the patient responds 3 minutes later. We're engaged. We're in a conversation. Our conversion rate is definitely going to be higher than trying to call that patient on a Monday morning. And then sharing examples of your before and after photographs. Are you wondering what's possible with orthodontic treatment? Asking the patient for a selfie. Want to know what we can do to improve your smile? Send us a photograph of your smile. Now, what's if a patient sends you this? What are you going to do next? How are you going to respond to that? Are you going to give them some advice? We certainly do that. And we use a powerful recording tool that records the screen in your face at the same time. And we record a custom video for that patient. I'm going to share just a short snippet of a typical video that we would send to a patient if they sent us a photograph like this.
Hi Sarah, Dr. Prav here. Thanks so much for sending in a photograph of your smile with your inquiry. Now, as I understand, you want to get married in about 18 months and you want your teeth super white, super straight, and for your investment in that, it's just $3,850. Or you can choose to pay it off and we'll show you this quick animation that shows how the teeth slowly come together to show you what we're capable of delivering. So you can see with this particular patient, we strained her teeth in 9 months from the SAU. So the next steps, click on the link below, book a consultation. I'm really looking forward to meeting you.
Just for your own knowledge, I don't really talk that fast. And I edited that video for the purpose of today's presentation. But you can see how I presented how I could change that patient's teeth. I gave them some advice. I showed them examples of our work. I showed them an animation using chairside of how the teeth move and come together. And it's that whole process that if I was to send a patient that video, they're blown away. The response is huge. And the majority of patients we send a video to do end up coming and having a consultation. You see, because the majority of practices won't do that. And the majority of you listening to this will not go to this effort. And that's why it works, because it's very rare and patients feel really, really well looked after and well communicated with when you send something like this rather than a plain text email. Going back to our workflow, we want to call that patient as soon as possible. But do you ring them from a mobile or a landline? Some practices will ring all patients from a mobile. Some practices will ring all patients from a landline. But I want to ask you this. If somebody rang you from a number you did not recognize and it was a mobile number, would you answer it? If someone rang you from a number you didn't recognize on your phone and it was a landline, would you answer it? Everyone is different. And I, for one, do not answer mobile numbers I don't recognize, but I will answer a landline number if it's from Manchester and it starts with 0161. And there's people who behave in the opposite way to me. So I recommend ringing half of your so first of all, we recommend a certain number of follow-ups, and we recommend you do 50% of your follow-ups from mobile and 50% from a landline. to increase the probability of getting hold of that patient. And we always recommend, after you've called that patient, send them a little WhatsApp message or a text message to tell them you've just tried to call them. Once again, to increase the likelihood of a callback or them picking up the phone next time. What about the time of day that you call these patients? What do you think our patients are doing between the hours of 9 to 5 when we are in clinic trying to call them? Yes, they're at work. And so we often find that when we call these patients outside of hours, early evening, or on a late Saturday morning, we increase the success rate of getting hold of them and booking these patients in. And if you call them and it's the wrong number, there's a perfect opportunity here to send them an email. We send an automated email that extracts that number and sends it out to them. And if it goes through to voicemail, which happens a lot, make sure you leave them an appropriate message and then have a follow-up protocol. And it could be something as simple as 3 follow-up calls, 5 days apart on a different day of the week and a different time of the day, alternating between landline and mobile to increase the probability of getting hold of the patient. And don't forget to send a text each time you call them. And if the patient answers, but they're not quite ready to come in for a consultation, set yourself up a follow-up call. Every time you speak to a patient, it's a perfect opportunity to build more trust. And when the consultation's booked, I think it's important to let the patient know what to expect next and perhaps what your treatment plan handover process is going to be. How are they going to receive that information? But the patient has the consultation and goes home and says, I need to think about it, speak to my other half. I often believe that if a patient tells you this, you haven't quite got to the bottom of what their key objections are. And I like addressing these head on. I go through this context in one of my courses that I run for TCOs and clinicians, where we talk about how do we get to the root of the conversation when that patient says, I just need to go away and think about it. What's the conversation stack there where we can really get to the bottom of what is it that's really going on in that patient's mind? And often it's something to do with either their lack of confidence in you, perhaps you've missed something out, not presented something, not shown enough social proof. Perhaps it's a finance thing that you can discuss with them. But I'd rather have a grown-up conversation about that than them making up some lame excuse and you not really knowing where you're at with that patient. Now, during this process, when they're thinking about it, we follow up, we send them reminders, examples of cases similar to their own, reviews from Google that we've pulled that are similar cases to theirs, and then callbacks. And those patients who don't say yes and don't say no, then maybe late as they're driving along in the slow lane, keep in touch with them with a newsletter and maybe reach out to them every 6 to 8 weeks, not too often, but once every couple of months to just see how they're getting on. Eventually things will change. They'll cross over into the middle lane and then the fast lane. And those patients who say yes, this is my moment, I believe, to reduce the impact of buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse, that stage where that patient walks out and she thinks, or he thinks, do I really deserve that? Should have I gone ahead? Should I get a refund on my deposit? I'm not quite sure if it's for me. And we use a simple technique called the golden envelope. The golden envelope is this concept that I brought to the industry where it's the concept where you write a thank you card to that patient. And I believe the best way to do this is extract something from your consultation. So words to the effect of, Dear Prav, thank you so much for putting your trust in me. I know it can't have been an easy decision. I'm really looking forward to helping you smile on your wedding day, chew into steak for the first time in your life, smile with confidence and socialize again, whatever that is. And then instead of putting that in a white or brown envelope, stick it in a golden envelope and pop it in the post. And when that arrives the day after, or maybe the day after that, and they see a golden envelope, they open it with excitement, and it's a heartfelt note from you. Now, this has a few impacts. It elevates the level of rapport and depth of rapport you have with that patient. It spreads that message throughout the household and its visitors. But the other great thing it does is it kicks off a marketing strategy, because patients take photographs of these cards and they share them online and tag you in, and it becomes a solid marketing strategy. Now, when treatment is complete, there's the perfect opportunity for you to say thank you to that patient, talk to them about retention if they've had orthodontic treatment, perhaps additional treatment like bonding or porcelain, upsell them a dental plan, and perhaps ask the patient for reviews or referrals for their friends and family members. Now, for those of you who would like a copy of this flowchart, there's a QR code on the next slide. And if you just take your phones out and scan that QR code, it'll take you straight to a page where you can access that flowchart, and it'll be emailed straight to your inbox. Now let's move on to the stage where let's assume you've got the patient in for a consultation. How many different flavors of consultations are there? Well, let me tell you, I've sat in excess of 500 patient consultations between clinician and patient, TCO and patient, TCO, clinician and patient, where a TCO's done half of it and the dentist does the other half, where the TCO's done 90% of it and the dentist has done 10% of it, and where the TCO does a bit, the dentist does a bit, and then the TCO finishes off. And every combination and permutation. And when people ask me, Prav, what is the best structure for a consultation? There isn't one. It's what's right for you. It's what works best in your space with the resources and the team members that you've got. Some of you may not have a TCO in clinic or have the luxury of that or even want that as part of your process. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, right? It's just different. And what I will say is this, there are certain things that I can share with you that if you do employ and use, they can have a massive impact on your conversion rate. But what is your conversion rate? If I survey a room, some people will tell me they convert at 90%. Some people will tell me they convert at 50% or 40%. But I believe that if your patient journey is right, you should be converting at about 95%. And it's really easy to do. You just need to make sure that you're converting what you want to convert, okay? What's being put in front of you is a really, really important factor to what your conversion rate is. So what I want you to think about is, what is the data that you have about that patient before the consultation? And what would you like to know about that patient to guarantee a 95% conversion rate? What would you like to know? If you had each of these different bullet points I'm going to share with you shortly, and if that information was articulated to you by the person who books that appointment on the phone, you would be converting at a much, much higher rate than you already are. So first of all, what we want to know is, what is that patient's expectations, both of the upcoming consultation and of the treatment? What dental issues do they currently have that they're aware of? Any special requirements about that patient? Are they anxious? What is their budget and where's the money coming from? This is probably one of the most important questions that you need to ask over the phone. But how do you ask that? Well, the first thing you want to do is find out, what do they know about the dental treatment they're inquiring about? What do they know about orthodontic treatment? How much research have they done? Have they looked into the level of investment involved? Yes, I have. Okay, and what do you have in terms of in your mind in terms of the level of investment that you'd need to spend to improve your smile, have orthodontic treatment? Well, I think it's between £3,000 to £3,500. Well, that's great, Prav. We're slightly more than that. We're at the £4,000 mark, and then you can talk them through your USPs or whatever, right? But once you know their budget and you know you're aligned in terms of fees, you can simply ask the patient, and would you need any help with funding the treatment? We do offer some amazing finance plans, but many of the patients we speak to also choose to pay through their own savings to save on any interest. Where would you find yourself? And all of a sudden, I've got the answer to their budget and funding sources. What previous consultations have you had? If they've had any previous consultations, I'd love to see the treatment plan to make sure I see like for like. I always ask for the treatment plan. And are there any other decision makers? Do we need to invite them to the consultation? One of the most important things I think you can do to transform the level of rapport you build with that patient, the level of connection, is something called the power dynamic. If you're happy to reduce it, you will connect with the patient in a much better way than you would if you were to lead with your title and raise the power dynamic. And by way of example, here's my colleague, Professor Ross Hobson. He's got so many letters after his name that I just don't know where to start. Now, if he was to introduce himself like this, wearing this jacket and this shirt, and have those letters embroidered into his scrubs, the power dynamic would go through the roof. But look at the difference in the power dynamic when you see the same guy just introduce himself as Ross, smiling and having a bit of fun. Massive difference in the power dynamic between these two people who are essentially the same person. If you want to drop the power dynamic, collect your patient from reception. I'm going to show you a quick video that really does help communicate the impact of collecting your own patient and what that means.
You're going to go get a I'm going to go get a brother. Right. Do you know what that's about? Let's go get it. Create that personal touch. Selina?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Kalish, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, Kalish.
You can come on through, Selina. Have a seat for me. So what we're going to do, I'm going to have a good look inside.
Can you see what happened there? He went out to reception. He introduced himself by his first name. He used her name twice before they sat down. He invited her to sit down, and he's postured at her eye level, if not a little bit lower. And all of that can set the scene, draw power dynamic, and make the patient feel more comfortable so that he and she will open up. Another way in which you can elevate connection and conversion rates is to use visual aids. Now, we all use photography, at least I hope we do. By taking some clinical photography and blowing it up on a screen, we can really help that patient understand what's going on. They can see all the tiny little details. And just by saying to that patient, how does that picture of your smile make you feel? What do you see? And what would you like to change? And that's your moment to just stay quiet and let the patient do all the talking. Tooth by tooth, they will write their own treatment plan for you. Another amazing tool, visual aid, is the Airbrush app. Now, the Airbrush app is one of these apps that a lot of people use, influencers use, to essentially tidy up their skin and improve their appearance. But it's got a dental part to the app, which is incredibly useful. Let me show you. Here's a picture of my daughter, and this is her 30 seconds after putting her through the Airbrush app. Here's a patient. Here he is 30 seconds later. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a recording on my phone in real time to show you how long it takes to transform someone's teeth in the airbrush app. So recording. So our patient Graham, who came in looking like this. We pop some teeth in there, then we can apply a mask and then whiten those teeth. And that's how long it took to get Graham from here to here. And let me tell you, getting Graham to pose for that first photograph and open his mouth and show the state of his teeth beforehand was really, really hard work. He was embarrassed. And he couldn't really smile for the camera. We took a picture, showed him how it would look on the airbrush app, and he started crying. And there on the right-hand side, you can see Graham's final smile. I'm often asked by clinicians, how do you manage the patient's expectations? It's not anatomically accurate. I agree with all of that. But the purpose is not just that. It is a motivational mock-up. It's a motivational tool that within 30 seconds, you can show that patient what's possible. And that's what's key. That's what's really important. There are far more accurate tools out there, smile design tools that you can utilize. But at this moment in time in that initial consultation, it gives the patient hope. And so Graham, who came in looking like the picture on the left, and then was shown how his teeth could look, got really upset, and we transformed his smile to where it is today. Was such a powerful journey. And in fact, here's a short video clip of Graham after his treatment.
When I first got out of the chair and looked at it, they give me a mirror, obviously, to look at my teeth and see what they look like. And I don't know, you can't really explain it, it's unbelievable. Like, is that the same guy? It's hard to take in at first, definitely hard to take in, and it is slightly emotional as well because you're not used to that. The wife was the first one to see when I got home. She was like, God, you're hot, babes.
And so there's Graham, happy with his smile, and I don't think we would have got him there without the technology that we used. When it comes to presenting treatment plans, one of the biggest barriers to conversion, I believe, is presenting too many options. The GDC want you to give your recommendation. Okay, what is it that you would recommend? If it was your brother, sister, mother, father, what would you recommend to them? Yes and no, you've got to present the options. Okay, always say try and present at the tops 3 options and consequences. And we can learn a lot from the famous jam experiment when it comes to giving too much choice. See, when we give too much choice, people avoid making a decision. I know if I'm out shopping for a t-shirt or an item of clothing and they've got 22 different colors, I might want this color and that color, and there'll be 4 or 5 colors I want, but it'll stop me making a decision, at least stop me in my tracks. And the famous jam experiment showed just that. 2 researchers set up a jam stall at a supermarket. And on day 1, they had 24 flavors on display. And on day 2, they had 6 flavors on display. And on day 1, 60% of the shoppers stopped to sample some of the jam and grab a voucher which gave them money off if they bought a jar. On the second day, only 40% stopped. But on the first day, 3% bought, and on the second day, 10 times more sales. Okay. When you remove the decision making for the patient, when you remove the decision making for the person who's buying the jam, you will sell more. Also want to share with you a tool that I showed you earlier, which is Loom. It was the tool that I used to record that video for that patient inquiry where they sent me a photograph of their smile. Now, Loom is a tool that records your screen, your face, and your voice at the same time. And we use this to present treatment plans back to patients after they've been in and had an in-person treatment plan presentation. In fact, it works incredibly well when that patient needs to explain what you've just explained to them, to their other half. And so these Loom videos really do help us communicate to people's partners the impact and the value of what it is that we're presenting.
Hey there, Sarah. Dr. Prav here. Thanks so much for coming into the clinic and discussing your dental concerns around your crooked teeth. Here I've created a quick summary of the treatment plan that we proposed for you. I know it might have been a lot for you to take in during the day, so please watch this video, take your time, and if you've got any more questions, I'm always here to answer them. You can ask your questions on this video.
You get the idea. That video, it'll take them through, it will show them their smile, it'll show them examples, it'll take them through the number of aligners, the process, the investment, the finance options, everything that would be typically in a treatment plan. But as soon as that patient clicks on the video and watches it, I get an email straight away saying they've watched it that looks like this. Isn't that powerful to know that they've looked at it? And even more powerful to see how much of the video they've watched, how many times that video has been watched, and what the completion rate was, 94%. And so this works really well for our TCOs to follow up with these patients and really, really engage with them and ask them if they found the video useful. Was there anything, do they want to come back in and have another consultation, bring their other half in? Have you shared it with your husband? There's so many more conversations that can come off the back of that. So I've got one question for you all now who are here watching. Did you learn something? Is this something that you've picked up during today's webinar that perhaps you're going to put in action tomorrow? Well, if you did, I've got one small favor to ask you, and that is to take your camera phones out, point them at the screen, and if you could, scan that QR code and just write down on the review page, what is it that you learned today? What did you walk away with? And I really look forward to reading those reviews and responding to them as well. It really, really does make my day when somebody goes out of their way to actually scan the code and just write down what it is that they took away from my presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for your time and attention today. And if you have any questions, I'll be delighted to answer them.
That's all, folks.
Okay, any questions? Don't think we have anything. Sarah Ramage, hello. Yes, it is recorded. Honor has asked, is it recorded? And Patricia, thank you. Thanks for your positive feedback. Veronica, thanks for your feedback. Lovely to hear that. And let's see if there's anything in the Q&A. No. If anyone has got any questions for today, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If not, the webinar will be recorded and available for you guys to watch later. Some of you I know might have tuned in a little bit later, and that's absolutely fine. There will be a recording sent to everyone who has registered for this. And that just leaves me to say, once again, thank you so much for your time and attention this evening, and have a wonderful rest of the evening.